Today, we need to talk about this guy. It's a plastic welding gun. It's pretty awesome. So I've been actually wanting to make a video about a plastic welding gun for a long time. So I was watching Chicanic at one point, and she was going over a fix on a lawnmower, and a piece of plastic was cracked. And I've had plastic cracked before, and I've fixed it with like JB Weld and just some type of epoxy, and just trying to put it together. And it's kind of annoying and frustrating. Man, this thing is awesome. What it is, it's a little like gun that just heats up a piece of metal. Check this out. You take a piece of metal that looks like this. There's like, you could have a corner piece, you could have a piece that looks kind of like this, and if there's a crack in a piece of plastic, all you'll do is you'll take your welding gun, stick it in the gun. There's two little sections on the gun, and you just push the button, and it heats up in like 3 seconds, and it just melts it into the plastic. So you have this piece of metal that's just embedded in the plastic, making it it's crazy how strong it becomes. It's much stronger than the actual plastic itself. You actually have bits of metal. And when you buy it, this welding gun, it's like 25 bucks. I'll link it in the description, but it's like so cheap. And you get like 1,000 of these. I don't know. You get so many of them in this little box, and I'm sure you could buy more, but you get a ton of them, and you can just melt it into plastic. So we bought this thing a couple years ago, and it was working great, and then it started to vibrate really, really bad, and I didn't know why. Turns out the reason it was vibrating was because there was this giant, not sure if you can see that, there's this giant crack all along here. So what I did is I took this plastic welding gun and I just embedded all this metal inside of it. I went around this. It's not perfect, but it holds it together. So what was happening is this entire thing just snapped and it just fell through. And I was like, well, that's kind of lame. That means my little machine for making cotton candy is completely broken. It was like 40 bucks. I mean, this thing's pretty cheap just by itself. But man, I don't want to just get rid of it entirely, and I didn't really know how to put it back together. So enter Mr. Plastic Welding Machine, where I could just glue some metal strips around the entire thing essentially, and it's good as new. It's a little off camber now because I didn't put it back together perfectly, but it works great, and that's cool. There was another issue that I had with my blender, where my blender is just a piece of plastic. I melted some of these through about halfway through my blender. It's super thick plastic, so it didn't actually go all the way through, and it made it pretty strong. There was another time where I could have really used this for my KLX 250S. I had cracked the fender, and I fixed it with some type of like epoxy or JB Weld, and it was fine, but this would have been way better and way faster. I haven't used it very much, but the times that I have used it, I've got so much plastic in my life. I feel like this is almost a necessity. I've always wanted to weld too, so plastic welding sounds pretty cool. It's like a glue gun in terms of how you use it. My daughter was helping me, and she thought it was the coolest thing ever. So we had a really good time just like melting metal into plastic. It's actually quite fun. So that's it. This is kind of like changed the way I look at plastic things that break fairly easily. It's kind of cool that I can just grab something like this and slap it back together. As someone who doesn't really care how things look, but I like to make things like sturdy and strong and functional and last for a long time, this has actually been really, really awesome. If you haven't ever used one, or if you have used one, let me know in the comments, because man, I think it's actually pretty awesome. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.